Okay, so this topic is going to talk about the cell transport across the membrane. So basically we have two types of the cell transport, namely passive transport and active transport. Okay, so for passive transport we have three types, which is simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion and osmosis. Active transport is sodium potassium pump and bulk transport. Alright, so we are going to talk at these two. Okay, for this video, simple diffusion and facilitated diffusion under passive transport. Alright, so membrane is selectively permeable, like we have said before, due to the phospholipid bilayer. Okay, for example, phospholipid bilayer, which has hydrophilic region and hydrophobic region. So since it is selectively permeable, it only allows certain things to go across the membrane, but not everything. So that's why it's called selectively permeable. So in general, this membrane most permeable to some small molecules and lipid soluble molecules. So small molecules can easily go through the membrane, as well as lipid soluble substance, okay, also known as hydrophobic molecules. Why they can go through easily? Because of the hydrophobic region in the internal part of our phospholipid bilayer. Okay, so it is impermeable to most of the polar molecules. So polar molecules, also known as the hydrophilic molecule, not easily go through the membrane. So generally, the bilayers impermeable to the molecule which is strongly polar. For example, all these examples here. Okay, another one is the sugar, not easily go through the bilayers because they are very large molecule and they are polar. Okay, larger uncharged polar molecules. So lipid bilayers permeable. Okay, these molecules can go through the bilayers easily. For example, lipid soluble molecules or non-polar molecules. Water molecules, okay, since it is polar, so it cannot pass through very rapidly through the hydrophobic region. Okay, not easily, water cannot easily go through the phospholipid bilayer. Oxygen and carbon dioxide, small and uncharged molecules, so these molecules can permeable through the phospholipid bilayer. So the molecule which cannot go through the phospholipid bilayer easily, they still can go through the proteins here. Okay, we have some proteins embedded in the phospholipid bilayers. For example, channel protein here. So this is specialized protein for certain molecules to go through the membrane. Okay, so passive transport generally means the molecules move from higher concentration region to lower concentration region, and this process does not require energy. That's why it's called passive. Okay, no energy is needed. It occurs just naturally because it just go through from high concentration to low concentration region. So it can occur in both living and non-living organisms. So in non-living organisms, whenever there is the concentration gradient from high concentration to low concentration, so this is also known as passive transport. So we have three types of passive transport here: simple diffusion, facilitated diffusion, and osmosis. Okay, so this video focus on these two. Alright, first one, simple diffusion. So it's just a very simple process. For the substance, for example, molecule, ion, or atoms, move from higher concentration region to lower concentration region, just like this diagram. When you put a lump of sugar in the beaker of water, the sugar molecule will move from high concentration to low concentration region. Okay, so it does not require any protein, does not require any energy. It just occurs naturally as a very simple diffusion. Okay, so for example, some lipid soluble molecules or the small molecules like oxygen, carbon dioxide, they can go through our phospholipid bilayer very easily, since they can pass through this hydrophobic region, alright, and they are very small. So this is just the simple diffusion that occurs across the membrane, okay, in or out from the membrane. So example that occurs in our living organism is the oxygen and carbon dioxide, which move across our alveolus, okay, from the lung to the blood capillary, or from the blood capillary to the lung, for the gaseous exchange to occur. Or some digested food diffuse across our gut wall into the blood. Okay, so this is the example that occur in our body. The next one is facilitated diffusion. So we call this as facilitated, means that it needs some help, it needs some aid, okay, with the Fac here. So the Fac here refer to our carrier protein. So some of the molecule, they cannot go through the phospholipid bilayer, okay. Why? Maybe they are large, maybe they are hydrophilic, that cannot go through this hydrophobic region, maybe they have charge. So this molecule, they can go through the membrane through this channel protein with the help of the protein. So that's why this diffusion is called facilitated diffusion. So it also known as passive transport because it also does not require energy. Okay, so there are two types of the proteins can be found in the membrane: carrier protein as well as the channel proteins. So what's the difference between these two proteins? For channel proteins, they just provide a channel. This channel is hydrophilic. Okay, since the center region of the phospholipid bilayer is hydrophobic, so this protein must provide a hydrophilic channel for that. So for some of the molecule to go through. Another one is the charged ions. For example, sodium, potassium, and chloride ion. They cannot go through the membrane easily. Okay, because the non-polar center of the bilayer will repel. So therefore, our channel protein can provide a channel, a pores or a space for this charged ion to go through the phospholipid bilayers. Alright, so for example, ions, okay, so they can go through our channel protein in and out from the membrane. No need to go through our phospholipid bilayer, which have the hydrophobic region. Some of the channel, they only allow the entry or exit of certain molecule. Not everything can go through this channel. For example, this protein, they only allow water molecule to go through. So this protein, they have a special name known as aquaporins. Porins always means the pores. Aqua, something related with water. So aquaporins is the channel protein which only allow the water to go through, okay, not any other things. While carrier proteins, something like channel protein, but this protein can change shape. Okay, after they have received the molecules, they will change their shape to release the molecules to the other side of the membrane. Okay, and then discharge the solute and change again the shape. Okay, conformation means the shape, so that it can go back to the original state. So this carrier protein, they only transport a small group of related molecules. For example, hexose transporters. So hexose here, the 6 carbon sugar. So they can transport glucose or some monosaccharide in and out of the cells. Okay, so for example here, this carrier protein has a certain shape. So it receives the glucose into the carrier molecule and then change the shape from facing outwards to facing inwards, and then release the glucose into the cell. So now glucose, which cannot pass through the phospholipid bilayer, they can go through this protein now. Okay, so that's the difference of simple and facilitated diffusion. One without the help of protein, one with the help of the protein. But both of them also under passive transport because they do not need energy. Another thing is they transport the things from high concentration to low concentration region.